Deep in the heart of Philadelphia stands one of the most chilling structures in American history, Eastern State Penitentiary. A place built not just to confine prisoners, but to silence them. Those who dared speak, whisper, or even hum faced punishments that today sound almost unbelievable. Prisoners were dunked in freezing water, left hanging in the winter cold until ice formed on their bodies. Others were thrown into the Hole, a pitch-black underground cell where there was no light, no contact, and barely any food. Days felt like weeks, and some prisoners never truly returned to sanity after their time down there. But the silence didn't end there. Anyone caught talking too much could be fitted with devices designed to force them into silence, sometimes with painful consequences. Others were strapped so tightly into restraining chairs that they often lost circulation for hours. This place wasn't just a prison. It was a fortress of loneliness, fear, and psychological torture. And many believe those emotions never left. As the decades passed, stories of hauntings began to rise from inside the abandoned cell blocks. One of the most terrifying accounts came not from an inmate, but from a locksmith named Gary Johnson. While repairing an old lock, he suddenly felt an invisible force grab him. He couldn't move, he couldn't scream, and in front of him he saw visions, faces of tortured prisoners, twisted in agony, staring back at him from the walls. When the grip finally released him, the last thing he saw was a dark, shadowy figure slipping into an empty cell. He wasn't the only one. Ghost hunters claim they've seen the same shadowy figure wandering the abandoned guard towers. Some believe it's the spirit of Joseph Taylor, a notorious inmate who murdered an overseer in the 1800s and is said to still roam the prison, trapped in the place that shaped his fate. Visitors and workers often report eerie sounds coming from cell block 12, whispering voices, sudden screams, and footsteps that echo through the hallways. Even when no one is there, it makes you wonder, are the spirits of Eastern State still desperately trying to break the silence forced upon them so long ago? Deep in the mountains of Colorado stands one of the most famously haunted hotels in America, the Stanley Hotel. A place built not just for luxury, but some say as a magnet for the restless spirits that wander its halls. What makes it eerie isn't just the age of the building, but the energy that seems to cling to every floorboard, every mirror, every room. Over a century ago, a violent explosion rocked the hotel. A housekeeper named Elizabeth Wilson, working in room 217, was thrown through the floor by the force of the blast. She survived, but the accident left a mark on the hotel, a scar that many believe opened the door to the supernatural. Guests staying in her old room often report lights turning on by themselves, luggage being neatly arranged, and the strange sensation of someone still tending to the space long after midnight. But the haunting doesn't stop there. The hotel's mirrored hallways are said to act like portals, places where spirits drift freely between reflections, sometimes appearing behind unsuspecting visitors before vanishing in an instant. Some guests hear footsteps pacing the corridors at night, always just out of sight, always moving, always watching. Perhaps the most chilling stories come from the grand staircase, where countless people claim to have felt a cold presence brush past them. Others have spotted full apparitions lingering in the corner of their vision, fading away before they can be approached. And then there's Room 217, the heart of the hotel's legend. Since the 1950s, guests sleeping there have been startled awake by invisible hands tugging at their blankets, whispering voices circling the bed, or the unmistakable sensation of someone standing in the dark beside them. Unmarried couples in particular report feeling a firm push, as if the room itself disapproves of their visit. Housekeepers tell stories of waking to find furniture rearranged, lights flickering despite no electrical issues, and faint figures drifting between the walls like shadows caught between two worlds. It makes you wonder, are the spirits of the Stanley Hotel still trying to finish the work they began over a century ago? Or are they simply lingering? Deep in the coastal winds of Florida stands one of the most haunted beacons in American history, the St. Augustine Lighthouse. A place built not just to guide ships safely home, but some say to hold on to the restless souls that still roam its spiraling tower. More than a century ago, a devastating accident marked the beginning of the lighthouse's dark legacy. During its construction, two young sisters drowned when a railway cart tumbled into the waters below. Their laughter was silenced in an instant, but many believe it never truly left. Visitors often report the sound of children giggling in empty corridors, footsteps skipping just out of sight, and the tug of small hands pulling at their shoelaces like playful ghosts still trapped in a tragic game. And the hauntings don't stop there. A former keeper, Joseph Andreu, fell to his death while painting the tower, a fall that echoed through the lighthouse and, some say, echoes still. Guests climbing the narrow stairs often feel heavy footsteps behind them, slow and deliberate. But when they turn, no one is there. But perhaps the most unnerving encounters come from the top of the tower, where countless visitors claim to have seen a woman dressed in white drifting near the lantern room. She appears in the corner of their vision, watching Josa only to vanish the moment they try to approach. Some believe she is the grieving wife of a keeper long gone, forever waiting for someone who never made it home. Then there are the scents, the unmistakable aroma of cherry tobacco drifting through the stairwell, appearing out of nowhere. Staff members recognize it instantly. The signature smell of Peter Rasmussen, a former keeper known for his pipe. He's gone, but the scent of his tobacco lingers like a reminder that he still walks the tower at night, keeping watch over what he once vowed to protect. Visitors and workers have reported even darker encounters, doors locking themselves, muffled whispers beside their ears, cold hands guiding them through the dark, and shadowy figures slipping between the walls as if the structure itself is alive with spirits trapped between this world and the next. It makes you wonder, are the souls of the St. Augustine Lighthouse still climbing those stairs, still guarding the light, still searching for what was lost? Or are they simply lingering, forever bound to the tragedies that the tower refuses to let go? Deep in the quiet town of Weston, West Virginia, stands one of the most terrifying structures in American history, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. What makes this asylum so unsettling isn't only its age or its massive stone walls stretching nearly a quarter mile. It's the echoes of the thousands who lived, suffered, and died inside. Their pain is woven into every hallway, every patient room. Originally designed to hold 250 patients, overcrowding soon pushed that number to over 2,400 souls, crammed into hallways, stuffed into rooms and locked into solitary confinement for days at a time. Treatments once considered medical feel monstrous today. Ice pick lobotomies, insulin coma therapy, restraints, isolation, and darkness. Over its 130-year history, more than 20,000 people are believed to have died on the grounds. And many say those spirits never left. In the quiet hours of the night, staff and visitors report hearing laughter on the 4th floor. The unmistakable voice of Lily, a 9-year-old girl who died of pneumonia inside the asylum. Her room is filled with toys left by guests. But the toys don't always stay where they're placed. Some roll on their own, some light up without being touched. Others say they felt a small tug at their clothes, as if a child is trying to get their attention or invite them to play. But Lily is not alone. Another spirit, Ruth, is said to stalk the 1st floor, sharp-tongued in life and furious in death. Visitors feel her anger as sudden pushes, scratches, or the sense that a pair of angry eyes is glaring at them from the darkness. Some refuse to walk that hallway ever again. Not every death was slow. A patient named Dean was murdered by 2 others, who crushed his skull with a metal bed frame. They hid his body in a corner of the ward and waited for someone to find him. Visitors report hearing a sudden loud slam in that room, as if the bed frame is still dropping, or seeing a dark shape crouched in the corner before it vanishes into the walls. Even the grounds outside are haunted, with every shadow that slips between the walls, every whisper echoing through the patient rooms, every cold breath brushing the back of your neck. It makes you wonder, are the spirits of the Trans-Allegheny asylums still reliving the horrors they suffered within those walls? Or is the building itself alive now, a vessel that feeds on pain, trapping the lost between this world and the next? If you want more stories from the darker corners of our world, follow the echo. Subscribe to Dark Myth Lab and step back into the shadows with us.